Well, hey, folks, it's 2 o'clock. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I'm Craig O'Neill, and with me today is Michael Catullo. Michael, go ahead and say hello a second.
Hello, a second.
There you go. Perfect. Michael is here, and he's going to help support some demonstrations of our latest features in auto text. And I promise I won't play with the body clip the whole time. Now, the funny thing is, we are always updating this tool. We know you guys are hard at work also, and it's not always easy to understand the latest changes. And then obviously that makes it hard for you to leverage them. So the reason I want to do this recap is we're at this halfway point already for the year. I can't believe it. And I just want to go through everything to make sure you guys are aware of the things that are there for you to leverage right now today. And this is usually going to be the case for anybody on almost any tier of the software, with the exception of the work order, which is not a tier of the software that everybody's on. But it might be interesting for you to see what we've been doing with the digital work order and how that ties things together between that digital inspection and the final quality control piece. So this is leveraging the latest. I asked some questions before you registered for this webinar. We asked what feature you're least familiar with. This is really helpful for us to make sure we're providing content that is useful for you. The interesting results here. I'm not surprised that texting and DVI were elements that people are largely familiar with. The marketing and follow-up text. Stay tuned on some of these things. We'll talk about that. Work order, not very familiar with that, I'm seeing. And some people a little bit familiar with the quality control. Now, what you want to learn was the second question. And this one surprised me for one reason mainly, is that nobody said the thing you wanted to learn about the most was final quality control. That made me a little sad, because that's also where our latest release here just recently in May was the quality control sheet rewrite. And I hope that by the time we're done with this webinar, a few of you will want to learn more about quality control and that process. It is a topic I do plan on discussing still in the future, but with your feedback, I understand as well, we're going to have to spend a little more time on work orders, some dispatching processes perhaps, and also how the marketing utilities inside of AutoTextMe are being developed. All of those things are going to become even more fun as we move throughout the year, as you'll see later on when we discuss a few roadmap features. Now, AutoTextMe, for those that are joining us that are newer with the tool, or those who are watching this recording later on, we have a workflow solution that is far and beyond texting. As our name suggests, AutoTextMe is about texting. We have workflow refinements as well, but the texting component is about updating the customers all along the way. What we've done over the years is we've added worksheets at several key intervals, digital inspections being one of those worksheets. Then, of course, the work order. We're trying to get away from paper printed work orders so that your technicians can be more seamlessly dispatched in that repair process without having to go passing paper around and all sorts of other things. And then there's the final quality control form. So DVI, work order, quality control, 3 key worksheets. And we help map out where these things happen in a fully customizable process. We aren't going to talk too much on the process today. We do have some other webinars that we've done recently that do touch on key segments of this. I do invite you to go into our YouTube channel, take a look at some of those, have your team review those things. I think we've had some pretty good discussions, Michael and I, and Michael's even hosted one recently on the DVI that will have long-term value for you and any new hires or onboards that you have in your shop. Moving on, let's start talking about the texting pieces. We've made several improvements to the texting components in the tool. I'm going to back up even to Q4 of 2021, where we introduced service reminders. Anyone with a level 5 integration with AutoTextMe, if your shop management system integrates at level 5, we do have our integration page. You can see exactly who our level 5 partners are. We are able to get service history directly out of that system so that you can now have automatic reminders queued up for you to schedule for your customers. I'm going to show you what this looks like as we go in tool in a moment. That service reminders piece is an added piece unless you're already on the innovative tier of our package, which includes that digital work order. That is a key element to this. We've also had some mobile screen improvements for smaller screens, people who want to use our TechFlow dispatching tool, for example. We've made an easier navigation menu inside of the application for you to be able to access those things on those smaller devices. And of course, text manager. I'm going to focus on the text manager piece. Great deal. The text manager is one of those things that I find to be the most intuitive advance that we've made with AutoTextMe. It's just a single space for you to be able to view all your customers. We call it the Skype modal. Sometimes you call it that. And then, of course, with that text manager, we can engage customers a lot better from outside of the shop. If they're not in for a current visit, we still have a one-stop spot where we can communicate very easily with them on our screen. This also afforded us the opportunity to have text to pay for people who are no longer with an active visit in the shop. This was a long-standing request for our text to pay users. And text to pay, of course, that's the feature where you send a link, customer clicks that link, and boom, they get their invoice and dollar amount. They click the pay button, scan their credit card, money goes into the deposit mode. You'll see the money next day. You get a confirmation, client gets a confirmation. Text to pay is super convenient, helps save you those phone calls where you have to jot down 17 numbers. And it's just, 16 digits, right?
16.
Yeah. See, it's been so long since I've had to actually write down a credit card now, thanks to text to pay. I can't even remember. I was thinking VIN numbers.
It's also just better not having that information anywhere in the shop's possession at all.
I hated writing that stuff
down. Just never good to have laying around on a piece of scratch paper that gets thrown away. It's terrible.
Yeah. I think our waste bin was a treasure trove of credit card numbers at one point. Oh, not good. We also did some UI improvements. So this is something I expect to see throughout the tool over time here, as our UI has always been very clean. It's one of the things I love about AutoTextMe, but our active customer page, our add customer page is now redesigned with this new UI. Should be a little more seamless, especially for our standalone users who don't have a shop management system integration. You'll be leveraging that page. All of you can check it out as well. We'll dive into that. And the last piece that we'll talk about today too is the check-in kiosk QR code. Check-in kiosks are terrifying for a lot of you. I realize this, that checking in through something other than the service advisor is wrought with terror, but I don't think it needs to be. And I think what you'll see here with the kiosk setup, this allows your busier lobbies, especially tire shop users, where there's always a lot of people, like 80% on some of the tire shops that I've talked with, 80% of your customers are walk-in, and it might be a nice idea for you to experiment with, see how comfortable people are engaging with that QR code.
Yeah, and I still find the QR code to be very valuable for after hours drop-offs, tow-ins, everything else that can be. It's got so much value.
Absolutely. And there's another piece too, and it's not new. It is the AutoTextMe widget. I'm going to start with that because I want to talk about what that widget is on the website. We have a lot of features that you can put onto your website. I'm going to borrow Golden Rules website. They even have this nice little page about what AutoTextMe is on their site. This is a really cool shop. I'm not just saying that because it's our boss's shop, but Chris Cloutier, our CEO and founder of AutoTextMe, of course, does have 2 locations. And this little widget is something you can put on your website. So you can close it down here. You see this button. It might be hard to see on your screens, but look on that lower right. I can even just pop this open just a little bit better for y'all. Here, we'll bring this up in the front and center here. You see right here on my screen, when I click that, being 2 locations, Chris's shops allow for 2 options. So if you are a multi-operation facility, or multiple facilities, I should say, you can have either one on here. And so if I was trying to make an appointment or reach out to the Rowlett location, I click on that. And this is really straightforward. What happens here is the customer puts in their name, their phone number, and the message that they want to send. Now, this day and age, we see chatbots a lot more on websites, and people are getting comfortable in dealing with this. The way this widget works is a little bit different because we don't want you or your team to have to be monitoring a website. We don't want you to have to rely on some really sophisticated artificial intelligence to properly handle the customer the way you would. We want you to be able to engage the customers, and we want an easier way for them to reach you by text message. So what happens here is when they plug in their mobile number and they send this, a text message will go to the shop. So let's bounce into Craig's Awesome Auto Service. We'll just use this as an example. I'm not going to bother Chris's team today with any random text. Don't go to his website and do the same either. That wouldn't be nice. And we'll have your number. But there's the text manager, right? This is that text manager piece. This is right here on the board. The number I texted from was my own personal number. So there I am right there at the top of the text manager. Folks, if you've been on AutoTextMe a long time prior to this text manager piece, it might have been a little bit nerve-wracking for you to have inbound texts coming in from an unfamiliar customer. You might even remember the way it used to come in was just up here inside of your notification bell. And it used to say unknown customer. And you would have to go into it, click it, contact the customer, ask them their name, have a whole conversation to get to the point where we bring you right away out of the gate. You'll have that customer's name, you'll have their comment and question, and it's all ready to go. The only thing you have to do in your staff, start talking with this individual.
Yeah. Craig, one other thing that you can really leverage with the manager is look over on the right there. You've got the vehicles.
Absolutely.
So when the customer texts you,
customer, right?
Because this customer is an existing customer, it pulled them up, it brings their name in, it gives you the information like the vehicles they have on the list. If they start asking a question, you pull over, you can see what vehicles they have. You already know the vehicle. There's so much use that can come from the text manager from that aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah, even the scheduled messages that the system will automatically have, you'll see all of that here. So you have a good insight into how this customer is going to be communicated with from the shop. And this all occurs from that shop's 10-digit long code number that is given to you when you sign up. So all these communication pieces right in one spot. You can even have private notes about this particular individual if you need to have something said here so that your team members who might be replying to this person on your behalf later on, private notes is labeled as private notes. Now, I will say I treat everything in any system as though the customer someday is going to see it.
As you should. That's the way it always should
just
be.
need to. Someday someone might be looking over your shoulder and see what type of private notes you're making. Try to just keep it copacetic, say nice things, no vulgarity, folks. Yeah, I won't preach long on that. But there are communication preferences in here as well. And this is an easy spot for you to be able to set those preferences for each individual customer. The text manager also has several different filters. I particularly like the unread filter. This was a key ask that we delivered very quickly after text manager released. People wanted to be able to see just the unread messages. Guys, we get it. Once you've got your shop busy, up to speed, there's 50, 60 people that might be communicating with you at any given time. Once you knock one out, you don't need to see it on that list anymore. You can focus on whack-a-mole mode here. And
just get the ones that need attention.
Absolutely. Yep. And there's a few other items you can do as well for just appointment messages that have been going in and out, any follow-ups that are going out. We would show you any of those messages that have been occurring. And this is just all extremely helpful. The text manager right now is a modal on the screen. That means it pops up from the active customer page. So the active customer page is the only page presently that this is accessible. So I love getting feedback on the text manager. We've heard wonderful reviews from this. I think this is just absolutely one of those things that makes AutoTextMe a great texting platform. And this was a leaps and bounds thing, in my opinion. Now, the text to pay piece, let's actually stay right here for just a moment. The text to pay piece inside of the text manager, you'll notice there's the payment button. It's going to be right at the bottom of this very familiar screen, right? This is basically the same sort of appearance that you would have if you had clicked the customer's name and you had that payment button there. The text manager just simply carries that forward. And the benefit of having it in here is even with this customer who texted us who has no active visit, we can go straight down here and see the whole conversation we want. But you can request payment from this individual, even though they don't have a visit in your shop. And that's okay. I don't necessarily recommend you do this unless you have a reason to request payment, but it is there as an option for you. There should be one other note I make on that regarding text to pay, folks. This is now able to be done from any customer profile. So even if you haven't had recent communication before, you don't have to go digging them up out of that text manager. The search button inside of AutoTextMe, I should show you right here at the top. This allows you to pull open any customer from any point in time. If you want to just search their first or last name, we search by any parameter that you have, and you can view their profile and you can have a conversation with them straight from here. So if you have to initiate conversation and they haven't communicated with you in a while, text manager might not be my first go-to spot. I would search for them in AutoTextMe at the top, find them in their profile, and you can carry this conversation directly from here. Their replies, of course, are going to put them straight to the top of the text manager. That makes sense? Michael, I was talking to you. No.
Oh, it definitely makes sense. And I did want to go into, and I know Allison asked the question that I did see about having a conversation with a customer that is not a customer yet. So if you've got a customer's name and phone number that you need to text message, how do you go about texting that particular customer?
Have they reached out to you at all, ever, or never?
Well, just from Allison's, from what I saw in the question, it was just a starting one with someone who's not in your system, who's not been a customer prior.
Yeah, or maybe even hasn't reached out to you, right? So actually, the add customer page is a great spot, and we talked about the UI change. This is a timely question, so we'll use just a fake number here. I'll go 356. Yeah, good number I haven't used fakely yet. All right,
Yeah.
so
It's
when
hard
I
to
hit
find
submit,
that.
this brings us into this page, and anyone who's been on Auto Text Me a while, you should notice, yeah, substantial UI change here, and we tried to streamline this a great deal. So last name, first name, email, you capture these sort of things. You should have already captured a number. Obviously, if you're looking to communicate with someone by text, I'm sure you've already received it somehow. It is required in terms of getting this client with a profile in Auto Text Me. You could make up a number. I don't recommend that. Changing them later can be a bit of a process. Or you can, of course, just add people in your shop management system, check them in. You could be in here too. You don't have to hit this page to add customers if you have an integrated system. Adding a vehicle, you click on that, you'll be able to add any year, make, and model. We don't need all the vehicle details. You can actually click here to add manually as well if you don't know if the vehicle doesn't actually fit with the drop-down modals that we have. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Estimated time to completion, the starting status, you want to put something on the board. One of the tricks I teach people too, if you want to put somebody into the system, but you don't want them on your board or to receive a text message, start them with the closed status. That'll actually create the customer profile and Auto Text Me. It just won't put them anywhere on the screen.
Exactly. And that way they don't go on the board. And then you can go into the profile and send the text message to them.
Yep. Yeah. So pretty cool screen. I do encourage you guys check out that new UI. If you have any feedback on that, please let us know. Moving on, I want to touch on the kiosk setup. We talked about that QR code. If you're not using the kiosk, this is a great feature. It's lots of fun because you can put our online scheduler. I could actually show you even on Golden Rule. They have their schedule appointment. And if you were to click on that, you're going to be opening up an Auto Text Me scheduler directly on the website. There are a few integrations that do allow us to put that into a shop management system, but most of the integrations that we do, you'll still have to enter in another calendar subsequently if you do this. We do read your calendars from the shop management system. Just be aware and ask us if how the integration works for you. We'll help you figure out the best way to implement that. Talk to your web developer. Well, we can give you the links and everything you need to make sure that gets embedded on your website. The QR code's a little different because the QR code, and this is a fake shop, but technically, yeah, you'd be able to scan this on your phone unless I maybe keep my mouse over it and block it from happening. But technically, you'd be able to scan that. And frankly, go ahead. Just remember, I'm doing public demos on this auto shop, and I'll have your phone number. So, but this will open up the check-in scheduler for Craig's Awesome Auto Service. Now, what can you do with this? You could print this off. You could laminate this. You could put this somewhere in your shop lobby where that's exactly what someone would do with their phone, is simply scan that QR code. And what it'll do is essentially open up the check-in scheduler that you have set up for your shop. And it's a simple process. It begins with a phone number. And if the client's already been in the system, it's really cool because it does obfuscate the data. So it doesn't, in case somebody put random numbers in and did some, you can see what vehicles you have in the shop. You can select a vehicle, enter the mileage or skip that, and answer the questionnaires. And you get to set up your own questionnaire. So you can gather all the relevant information. And of course, the different service jobs. Now, I love our kiosk and our online scheduler both have this screen here where it's showing us the unaddressed items from previous inspections. This is a really cool feature because it does confront the client with the things that we did not mark as addressed. We're going to talk about those addressed items several times in this webinar, but in this case, we're not asking for an authorization here. Please note, we are only asking for the customer to click on the things they want us to review. So this is a pretty neat way for them to be able to tell you that. And of course, they don't need to do anything else if they don't want to. Check in. We can have disclaimers now as a part of this check-in process. And when we submit this in Craig's Awesome Auto, we'll have another ticket right on our dashboard. So let's take a look at how that looks. There's Joe Paluca with his Honda Odyssey. I have two Joe Palucas on the screen today. It's motorcycle season. He doesn't just have minivans, although he's very practical. But there he is, checked in. And in details, we also show you the information from that questionnaire and survey. Any of the questions and answers they had are going to be visible for your team right here. Makes for a very useful way to get people on the board or in line I know some tire shops out there that have just absolute pandemonium in their lobbies, and just trying to keep people in line appropriately is an important piece.
Plus, and from my standpoint, also, I go again to the after hours check-ins, because one of my biggest things I had when I was a manager advisor was getting those after hour check-in envelopes with a phone number you couldn't read or a customer's name you couldn't read, and then you're having a hard time calling them or looking them up because you don't have the information. Then I got to go out to the vehicle and get the VIN, put it in the system. Oh, that's the customer. Okay.
Yep.
When they're typing it into the computer and it's coming into auto text me, there's no handwriting you've got to decipher it. The information's there clear as day. It's just so many different ways you can utilize.
I really like the idea of that QR code, like on the inside flap of your night drop box or on the envelope, instead of having the spots to fill in. It could be pretty interesting that way. And it's this perfect self check-in for those drop offs. There's lots of implementations I've imagined on that, and I'd love to see some people experimenting with. That's good.
Hey guys,
Greg.
Rui, actually, there's a couple of great questions that have just popped up here. One of them is on the questionnaire for the self check-in like that through the QR code. Can we make any of those questions mandatory answers?
Ooh, that is a great question. And that I believe is a no on the questionnaire anyways. Take a look here. This is on the kiosk setup for any shop. This is how it would look. So you can add any questions you want. One of the options we do have, it's a little different than this, is certain questions will only be asked to new customers. So I use that one example of this home address. The only time you usually should have to get this is the first time a customer comes in. Returning customers, I assume through good practice, you'll already have that data. But no, there's not a requirement on there. That would be a really good feature request from Rui. That's a good question. Yeah. Thanks, Greg. And I forgot to introduce Greg early on, but Greg is there watching chat very, very well with us, and he knows exactly how to interrupt us to make sure that your questions get answered. So please feel free to ask anytime. Thanks, Greg.
Bet.
Now, yeah, I don't believe there's any other requirement on this as end of things as well. Now, there is in setup and options, you'll see that there is a lot of stuff on the scheduling element, and this has evolved a great deal. If you haven't looked at kiosk in a while, we of course have that disclaimer down here. We can force drop off, which doesn't mean that you're actually going to succeed in forcing them to drop their car off. It just means we aren't offering waiting appointments as an option for appointments. And same for shuttles. You can have that toggled yes or no, signature pad, yes or no. And if you want, you can block things off for your lunch hour. Now, lunch hour, I should know, I don't think I put it in my bullets, but in your company setup now, and I believe Gerald, he hit me before this webinar. He's grilling today with his team for the webinar time, which is fantastic. And I hope that you've gone to company setup already and established a lunchtime for your shop. If you click on that, it'll open that up and allows you to set that lunchtime parameter. I know a lot of shops who do close for team events on lunch. Our shop had a 1 hour lunch break in the middle of the day. And that was it. We did not work on cars during that time unless we were really behind. Point is, customers see that as a hour you're not available. That excuse me, also pairs with our AI setup. The AI texting inside of Auto Text Me knows when you're open and knows when you're closed. And if you are currently closed and not responding to messages, I would encourage a better message than shop is currently closed, as I have in my test site here. Make it a little more personable, but at least let them know that you will get back with them as soon as you're back in the office.
And it also does give you the ability to, and something that doesn't get utilized a lot, it's older, but it's the ability to set a message to somebody who, when your shop is closed for a holiday, when it's a random closing, if you're closing for an inventory, if you're closing for, the tool can set those messages out for you to say, hey, today we're closed for Memorial Day.
Yep. Nope, that's very useful. The AI stuff can be a lot of fun, and you can test it and play with that yourself if you go into your AI setup option. Worth checking out. Moving in, I want to talk a little bit about phone numbers, because last year, many of you remember, we had a major thing changing with carriers and the way they handle filtering. And there's a whole registration process for A2P 10DLC numbers. And there were some questions that came up during that time. It's like, should we use toll-free numbers instead of the 10DLC numbers? And a lot of other people in texting we're starting to migrate that way. Those toll-free numbers cost a little bit more, but the registration process was a little different. We want to stay with A2P 10DLC. We found a registration process that came as no cost to our clients, and I think we found the perfect spot to be. And I think it's good news that we went that way, because those changes that carriers have been making to 10 DLC numbers, I'm starting to see signs of that now with the toll-free numbers. How this is going to progress is that's my question as well. As your texting partner, we watch this space very closely. What we've learned recently is that, yes, there is now toll-free number verification process. No cost for people using toll-free numbers to verify them. What might change for different campaigns that might have to be reported down the future, I think this is going to continue to evolve in some pretty unpredictable ways. This is all driven by carriers. And if you think about it, applications that are texting people, a lot of people can use this power for evil. Texting as a system was designed for peer-to-peer, not application to person, not in mass scale businesses. It's really quite an interesting method of communication, considering how other data-driven sources are there. But SMS is what we have. The text message is what we have right now. This is how people are communicating. We know customers want to be reaching out this way. 13% of auto repair shops, for example, have finally started to get to the point of sending status updates to their customers by text message. From JD Power and Associates, who I was recently able to hear why that's important to overall customer satisfaction at a seminar. And it was an amazing report. I hope to be able to share some more details with that report when it's appropriate to share publicly. But what we do know is that client satisfaction, people want to be communicated with by text. Regardless of what that one squeaky wheel sometimes says in your shop, it still remains a valuable way to connect with clients better than we already are. Good news is, any of the changes currently right now, I see nothing that any of our users need to worry about. No changes to your existing behavior should be expected. The amount of carrier filtering for our clients is almost zero. It's extraordinarily rare for a filtered message to occur. There's so many reasons why, but hey, this is one of those things where we're at work hard for you, and we're happy to do it. So you don't have to. It's not a fun spot to try to keep up with things. Now, DVI, we have made some awesome changes with DVI. RVH tagging, we have these new green item filters. RVH tagging is getting a lot of attention from some of our users, and each of the webinars, I always find somebody has not been using tagging on the DVI. We're going to dive into that. And I think my favorite feature is the mapped recommendations for our predefined notes. You can now map a recommendation to a finding. If you have a finding that you select in AutoTextMe's DVI, it'll automatically find a recommendation. I'll show you how we set that up. We've added recall data for technicians at the top of the DVI, searchable invoice history for technicians with level 5 integration once again, general header improvements, and we can, of course, now do status updates in these inspections as well. So for this example, I'm going to start here in Craig's Awesome Auto. I just want to touch on a few things here. So let's go in here. I think people are playing with the check-in. And there's a recall section right at the top. So comically, we had to recall the recall feature because the volume of people that were checking this was so substantial that NHTSA couldn't handle the requests that we were generating. There are a lot of DVIs happening every day inside of AutoTextMe, folks. And we have to be aware of that scale every time we release a feature like this. We have it working great now with NHTSA. So I think you're going to appreciate this. All it is you click on that. And if you've got a VIN inside of these things, even your make and model, in many cases, you'll be able to see the recall details for it all. You can have it all expanded or collapsed, dig through there, have some fun in that. This is all part of this redesign of this main header. So these details here also can be collapsed if you just want that kind of out of your way for the moment. And then you'll see that there's a few other pieces in here too. So history, in this case, I'm showing tire shop history in Craig's Awesome Auto. I don't have any ticket data in there, but this is where you would see a searchable history. I'll pull open another example of that as well. A nice little typable search field so that you can find jobs very, very easily. We also show the AutoTextMe work order history independent of a shop management system as well. So if you did a manual work order in AutoTextMe, that's all available at your technician's fingertips here. But let's take a look at an example with an RVH here. Let's actually go into this motorcycle inspection. So bike time here, if we wanted to go tagging things, we just need to select some stuff on this inspection, marking things green, yellow, red. This all generates different things inside of that tagging interface where you have the red and yellow items show up. Wipers on a motorcycle. No, that's not a good example, Craig. but the green items show up too. And these are all in that list. What we weren't doing before with this tagging is we weren't showing the green items. So now green is shown there, and it has its own filter up here. Just makes it really easy to go ahead and tag that. Sad story, Mike. My motorcycle's fuel injector light did turn on. It is the one light on this bike, and had to bring it in, get it looked
Yeah, to
at.
take it in for service.
Yeah, I wanted to
Just as
try
the
to do-
weather's getting nice too, huh?
Oh yeah, season's here. Yeah, but oh well. I'll be out of town for a couple days. It'll be
You'll
back.
be ready when you come back and you
Ready.
can go riding.
It'll be ready. Now let's take a look at administratively though, what we can do inside of the DVI setup that's changed. So we've added a couple things in here that have gone away in the past. First off, this year we did bring back repopulating green inspection items. You'll remember that if you're repopulating previous inspection data, that brings back anything that was not marked addressed, that yes or no addressed option. Red and yellow items, that's really useful. It wasn't always useful for everyone to have green items. When we took away the green items, the people who did like green items coming back said, we want the green items. So you can have those. You do need to have this option up here marked yes as well. And you can still see those green items repopulating, so you don't have to say anything about it there, or you know what it was said a little bit quicker. Down below, we've also expanded our customer microsite options. And this is where you can show the customer the status the vehicle's in on the microsite. We'll show you an example of this. You can show customer history right there. That's a toggle. And those two pieces, along with the show customer items as addressed, I think make for a very powerful customer report. I'll pull up an example in a second here of what all that looks like when it's playing together. But next thing I want to do is show you those DVI notes and how you map those recommendations. The DVI note setup is the third option in that menu. You go to the itemized notes. This feature is very specific to itemized DVI notes. And you'll see that if I wanted to say something about this burned out headlight and the low beam, I can map a specific recommendation to it. If you've got a burned out headlight bulb, what's the thing that you would definitely recommend doing? You're going to replace the headlight bulb. So you go ahead and click that, hit save. You'll notice it might be hard to see on your screen, but there is a little red number 1 right next to that R, indicating that we have a recommendation mapped to this. And this is very specific to this sheet. So if I go into that inspection for this motorcycle, definitely don't want to have a burned out headlight on a motorcycle. We've got that sheet selected. What's going to happen here when I go into that headlight section is here, we'll go right here, add notes. And we said burned out headlight, low beam. So I select that, and notice it already selected it here as well. I hit save, and now we have the finding, the recommendation we recommend, and the status all marked fewer clicks. Makes this a very fast way for the technician to be able to do the most common items. You might not want to map every single finding that you have. I don't think we would be recommending that anytime soon, Michael, but the common ones, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's a great
your
spot.
common stuff. And it makes it, anytime you can take away a click from a technician, it's going to make them be able to be more efficient at the DVI, which means the DVIs will be done better. It's
Absolutely. So I'm going to do something here. I'm going to open up an example of an inspection that I've been using. And I'm going to show you what that client microsite looks like more fully. So let's go into, I'm going to put this on my screen 1 second. Let's take a look at this in auto text me. All right, so client microsite, first off, if you're on a larger screen, it's bigger, a little less micro, a lot more site, right? Now, when you're doing this on a mobile device, it's going to look a little bit more like a cell phone here. You'll see the shop logo, you'll see the vehicle, and you can see the status that the vehicle's in. This is that status display. So when the customer opens up their inspection results, we want them to be able to see the status here too. Now, of course, if you're texting on key statuses, this should already have been communicated to them. But if you're using silent workflow steps, it's still very useful to allow the customer that level of transparency for the visit. All they would ever have to do, and you could communicate this with your client, is continually refresh this throughout the visit if they want to see the current status that the vehicle's in. Another way that you can have even someone who doesn't necessarily text you still be able to stay in touch with those statuses. There's a lot of clients out there that can receive these through email. If they don't want to receive a text message, or for whatever reason they just can't, you can still send the email with this link. They'll be able to open up and participate the same way someone on a mobile device would. And then, of course, our microsite has all these abilities here to collapse these items. This is showing the unaddressed items. If I had things marked as approved, it would have they would be showing green as addressed. This is not meant to be an approval item for the customer. I know we get requests for that all the time. We have ideas for you sort of folks on that, but this is just meant to show what was approved and addressed in this visit from our inspection results. We use this in our rainy day folder.
Yep.
So client microsite, there's one more piece to this that we'll show in a moment, and that has to do with the reporting of shop management system history from there. So we're going to go into that a little bit more as we move through. Now, I do want to say one other piece on that, on the header. When we go into a DVI now, this header should be consistent now across all other features. When we say there's been header improvements, that's just referring to this piece, and you can navigate to the other systems or worksheets from anywhere. This is all carrying through in the same format and same style across each of the 3 worksheets. So we've just gone from DVI all the way to work order to quality control. You notice there's very little change at the top of the page. Vehicle notes and recalls will all be there in their own tabs as well, and you can click through those things. That should hopefully make sense. Now let's go into one other example here. I'm going to pop into our standard auto.
Hey guys, before you jump too far forward,
please.
One thing a couple people have actually mentioned here is having access to the customer microsite without affecting whether or not the customer has opened that. Any thoughts on that?
Let me make sure I understand the question. They haven't opened the DVI or other?
Correct.
Report?
Presumably, I think the question is based on essentially if the customer has not yet opened the actual DVI, if as a shop, if we could go in then and view the microsite or the customer view of it or preview it essentially.
I wouldn't recommend the shop previewing it because when that is first shared, it's typically with the DVI. And there are other ways to get the client onto a version of the microsite, however, and that could be done with anything such as the work order, for example. So I'll show an example on this case here. We have a digital work order in place. We have Lee and Rex assigned to this one. When I have text and email for this work order going to this person, I'll just do a text. What happens is this individual will receive that link from the work order, mind you. Let's see, that was just in May right here, right? So let's open that up. They would receive this link and be able to click on this. I do not believe we show the status on the work order part of the report, but it is a form of the microsite anyways that is accessible without it having the DVI component. So it's at least one piece for you there. You can see some of the same characteristics. Now, and Michael, will you please go and toggle on the SMS history option in standard auto? That's actually, I should probably show you that DVI setup for our users that want to use history. I can actually just show it right here, show customer history. If I said yes to this, I don't think this client has history in this shop, but let's actually go back into that text example. Get a little in the weeds here, but I don't mind. I like the tall grass. Yeah, we'll need the DVI sent on this one. I'll show you with another vehicle on the same shop. Let's go full screen here. Let's borrow Joe Paluca on this one. We're going to go into this DVI. It's got a little bit more going on, and it also has some history. Oh, it would have had history if I did more tickets in that system. But we've got the work order, DVI items. Let's send the text. And once I send this, that same basic site, I'm going to cheat here and pull open that link from here. I'm going to hit view inspection. You'll see, yeah, this one has the a couple things for me. Actually, this is exactly what I wanted to be able to see. I wanted to see the current status on this example. I didn't send a work order yet for this customer. We'll do that in a second. But there's the history option. I don't have history in this, but I want to show you what happens. When I hit that history button, the customer is going to be prompted to receive a PIN number. By hitting request PIN, a text message will be received, and that customer will be able to enter that PIN right here. And that happens instantly. Once they type that, that opens up the history modal. They'll be able to see the jobs, the hours, and the items that were done on that shop management system history. There is no history for this customer, so it won't be any value in me opening that right now. But that whole PIN process is completely handled by auto text me and gives your customers a way to access previous history at your facility. you know as well as I know, most of the time customers are putting that information straight in the glove box, all crinkled up, and maybe it even just gets tossed. Keeping that stuff digitally accessible for clients, big help. I hope some people have found their way to this. You see the history button up here for the larger screen view. Very useful, very useful. Now, what I wanted to do, and we'll kind of come back to some of these questions here too, as we move through the work order piece. This work order was updated. That means a full technical rewrite. A lot did not change visually on this work order, but it did change on the back end. This is so that we can start doing new, more complex features, tie things in with the DVI even better, and all sorts of things are now possible as a result. Now, I'm going to pull open another example here with my technician. I'm going to be Lee Vittoff, the test technician, and you'll see here that he has a few things on his tablet. Kind of funny tablet size here, but that's all right. What you'll see is all the priority orders for this. If I wanted to go into this particular vehicle, it's waiting on technician right now. If I wanted to go into that work order, this is what the technician's going to see. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, make that a little bit more legible for you. And here we go. Reason vehicles here will be on there for you. Notice this key feature here, assigned item lockout. I noted that on our slide. What this means is as Lee, I can only engage the job that's assigned to me. This was one of those key requests that we had for the digital work orders on split tickets. If a technician accidentally clicked the timer on a job that wasn't assigned to them, would have started the timer for this technician who wasn't assigned. So we've corrected that problem by graying out any of the items that he can't click on. I can click on this all I want. I can't do anything about it. Can't move sliders, can't add notes, can't add videos. I can do that right here just fine. So I start my timer. I can add notes if I want to type notes about my engine oil. Engine oil looks good now. Done and done. If I wanted to upload, I already did this picture here, but one of those other things that we did was the image markup has been made to match what we do on the DVI. Previously, this had the older version of our image markup and did not work as well. So now you get the ability to add circles, arrows, squares, different colors, anything you need to on there. Timestamp the images just like before. Folks, I have personally witnessed several instances where one Auto Text Me client in one state had a customer that was from another Auto Text Me client in another state. And through the work order collaboration and sharing some of the details that were kept on a digital work order, the shops were able to better help each other from a client, in this case, who was actually trying to convince another shop that, oh, hey, this transmission is burning up. And they were trying to blame one facility, whereas the original facility proved that it was strawberry milkshake in the transmission pan when they requested a flush, which wasn't going to resolve the issue. The other facility was very grateful for the additional information that the shop had done in the very first work order with that customer, connecting the two shops to talk on stuff like that. Pretty neat, unadvertised benefit of work order documentation.
And one of the things that with that, Craig, the ability for your tech to be locked out of other techs jobs, though, is something that is a setting that you have to set for your techs, because you can't allow the tech, if you've got, say, one shop foreman who you want to have him to be able to go in and click on a job because he's taking it over. You can give particular techs access to other techs' work. So these are settings that you have to set up as the admin with those users.
I appreciate you mentioning that point, Michael, because that's easily overlooked. Your administrator has control over these, and you can have more than one administrator. That's new this year as well, folks. You can add another admin user to your add manage users page. Not a bullet point, but it is something you can do. This yes, no toggle in here for this user. If I said access to other assignments, this should allow you to be able to reassign things. Now, if it is not reassigned, though, as you may recall, this is Lee, and it says access to other assignments. Yes, this very specifically refers to the fact that this user has access to view other people's assignments in Auto Text Me. It doesn't. If he doesn't assign it to himself, however, it will remain grayed out on that work order. So if you do have a shop foreman that's responsible for these sort of things, he should see this grayed out, even if he has that setting on, but he can go and assign himself that job just fine. Yep. So you're not locked out permanently. Now, the digital work order piece here, one of the other things that we want to discuss is the mobile screen note reformatting. Sorry, this needs to go smaller, not bigger. When you have longer notes, what you should start to see now is these notes are just going to fill in down here paragraphically. Prior, they were all trying to scrunch into this button as a clickable link. Now we bust those notes out and it'll appear a lot neater. So if you have lengthier descriptions that you're putting on your work order, you can do that a lot safer now. It won't come up jarbled just because you're on a smaller device. Now, one of my favorite features, now I'm going to go and do one more thing here on that work order. Let me get back into full size work order here. Let's go into that ticket. And I'm gonna steal this one here and just mark that as complete. And one thing administrators always can do is you can update the person who does a job. So if we still want it to be Rex, even though I had to click it for them, you can fix it for them. That being done, let's go back in as Lee and let's complete this job. As I mark this job complete, if I were trying to leave this page, let's go, sorry for the wild ride here for a second. I believe if I try to navigate off, it's disabled. That feature that I was looking for was the prompt to remind me to submit that work order. It did not show up for me here in this. I've got to double check that setting. But what you should have seen, it's
The alignment is still not marked completed.
I thought I did that one. Sorry.
I think you did that on the wrong customer ticket.
You're right. But
You went into-
so
you
go
went
ahead and
into-
fix that for me, will you, Michael? And then
You went into maybe Dunn's ticket. Let me go.
Yep,
This is on Joe Palooka, right?
this one is on the Odyssey. Thank you.
On the Odyssey. All right. I'm fixing it in the Odyssey right now.
Yep. So what'll happen when I refresh this here?
Give me a second.
See that? Oh, I thought you said now as in now.
Yeah, let me open the work order. All right.
No.
So if I start complete,
Here's the thing. We realize that a lot of people are completing jobs on a work order, but they're not submitting the work order, and that doesn't
Right.
lock it into the work order report.
it has been completed, Craig. So if you refresh that screen, it should.
So when this is done with that job completed, what I should see, I don't know if it'll do it when I navigate out. Yeah, it would happen when I mark that last
Job
on
complete.
mine. Yep. So if I were to revert to start and then mark it complete, now we get
Now.
this prompt right there. Long road to get there. That prompt is meant to allow you to submit that report here. And it is okay to hit OK on that and then do some editing on this. I wanted to make sure I clarify that. I did get a question early on. People thought that, oh, just when you hit OK, oh, I'm going to be locked out. You're never locked out of the work order once it's done. The only thing that happens for a technician who's finished a work order and it's submitted is it drops to their work done folder. You can still access any of those worksheets anytime. Go back, add notes, do what you need to do. And you'll notice it moved it into that quality control topic there. Now, I showed you the times that we updated this stuff. The work order stuff was mostly updated in April. The QC stuff is what we most recently did here in May. And the QC sheet, one of the big questions that we got for this is, can we have multiple sheets? And forever, the answer has been no. But now, yes, we have multiple sheets that you can select for a quality control sheet. So, hey, you got motorcycles and cars in your shop. You can have motorcycle QC. You can have a car QC. You got fleet stuff that you want for a specific client. You can have a specific client's QC sheet built up in here. I want to show you this from a user standpoint as an administrator. Your admin menu, you can go straight into QC setup, quality control setup right here. This has changed ever so slightly. Same sort of principles, a lot of things in here. Very, very cool. We always try to give you new features when we do a technical rewrite. And this for me is just great. You can add more sheets. Just like with DVIs, you can pick which one is going to be your default that will automatically be open for most tickets. You can have things default to all green. I say no to that every time, and I'll encourage you to do likewise. Don't start with everything marked green. We want everyone to check everything. Showing DVI items, I'm going to cover that in a second. This is a key. It's my favorite thing.
My favorite. It makes doing QC so worthwhile, and the whole tying everything together.
Go ahead.
No, a
It's-
couple other things that we can do, and with the QC, the multiple QC sheets, is you can have different QC sheets for different processes in the shop, from a QC sheet for the monthly cleaning or QC sheets. One shop wanted to do a QC sheet for the advisor before they get, almost like the tech does the QC on the technical side. There's a QC sheet for the advisor to make sure, to double check, are all the parts on the ticket? Did we, the things that an advisor should do before they close the ticket, they have a separate QC sheet for that.
No wrong
anything
way.
can be QC'd.
Yeah, I have my best practice ideas. I try to keep it to one sheet, and you'll see I structured this one. This is the example I try to onboard with. If you've worked with me recently, I do ticket items on here, which are a little bit more obvious. You can require certain things as well. Like one of the key ones people ought to be requiring is that the vehicle is in fact clean. This is all key in my opinion. Now, this setup screen, pretty straightforward. If you want to add a new sheet, you'll see the button there. I do encourage you, try out a couple different sheets, start short, start easy. Quality control is one of those pieces I want to see more people leveraging in the tool. That is one of my missions this year. I want to show you how it looks when you are performing it. So we'll borrow Joe Paluca again, and we're going to just move through the sheet very quickly. Hey, ticket items, we have flags at the top here, so we know the DVI was signed off. We know the work order was signed off. If those were QC items, you would be able to have this here. Work order submission was a key one that we had to track for a while. A lot of people weren't submitting those. So we have that right there as well. Customer main concern being addressed, fluids, all these sort of things, pretty straightforward. What I want to do here, I'm going to mark one of these things as bad. I'm going to say wheel torque was off 2 pounds, right? Whatever. We'll put that in there, and then we address it, right? We leave it marked red. We fix the issue. We mark it there. Notice videos and pictures per line item. If we did take an image of this and we wanted to go in here, we'd be able to go into our test shop, grab in a picture of a wheel if we wanted to. These work now exactly like the work order and exactly like the DVI. Same image markup, same timestamp. If you want to do a video of your guy torquing down wheels, you can do it. All that stuff is useful. But what I wanted to really highlight was when we mark this as submitted, I'm going to hit submit, and you get this. This is the DVI items from the DVI, anything marked red or yellow that was not yet marked addressed. So you'll want to reference your work order, probably on your other screen from your shop management system, perhaps, and you would just simply mark the things that were approved for the visit as a part of your quality control process. What are we trying to do here? We're trying to make you hit those yes, no buttons in that DVI. This is something I teach service advisors to do during the sales process. We understand that it does not always happen. Now notice those items are marked yes from that QC sheet here. You are actually editing this DVI from the QC now. Saves you a little bit of extra effort, but it does add that as part of the process. The QC sheet now supports this behavior.
It also puts it right in your face. Like,
hey, in your face.
Did you do this? Mm-hmm. And again, it becomes very important though, because if you want to utilize the rainy day folder to automatically be sending this out, these things have to be getting marked on a regular basis to feel confident to automatically send these out, which is where you want to be. You want to be at the point where you can resend DVIs that don't have items that were not addressed back to your customers in that set time frame. And you're going right into that.
Absolutely. I'll follow you, man. And this is the rainy day folder, right? This is another area where you can modify any of the yes, no buttons, but we just want this to be accurate before you have the rainy day. A rainy day is a day where your shop is slow. You need to drum up the work. What better place to look for the opportunity to serve clients than the inspections you've already performed? Those inspections being used depend on some more information. We want to know what jobs actually did get performed in that other visit. And if you don't tell Auto Text Me at this point, we won't know for sure. Sort of. There is the service reminders piece, but we'll get to that in a second. This makes this better. And you can still edit this stuff. You can resend these things to the client. Customers can schedule stuff from that rainy day folder. But there is an option in rainy day. You can send these automatically. I would love to see more shops comfortable doing this. You don't want to hit this toggle at the top of the page unless you are getting those yes, no addressed items on every single visit. The QC sheets evolution, I want to see a little bit further evolution on that feature myself. But as step one to help you manage this so that we can get here. So this becomes an automated drip style marketing piece. The value of that is substantial because it's real items on the car. I
Yep.
could go all day. Now, service reminders, however, is the first element in Auto Text Me that was introduced in Q4 late in December, just before the new year and the holidays. So service reminders is a feature you can turn on if you have level 5 integrations. This is looking at your ticket in your shop management system, and it is looking at certain types of jobs. Oil changes, state inspections, and tire rotations are the main ones. So in this particular environment, I have a couple oil changes that were recognized. Our system will recognize keywords such as synthetic, and you then schedule the reminder. All that the service reminder feature is doing right now is putting the items in front of you to schedule the reminder. If you want to schedule the reminder, you simply click it. And I have an error on that page. Sorry, I have to refresh. I left this up from earlier. There we go. And now it's scheduled. You can cancel it. And there's 2 ways to schedule. That one's just based on a pure date and time. That didn't have mileage data on that ticket. This ticket has mileage information. So I click predictive reminder and it figures out when this should be due based on the mileage information that we've acquired for the multiple visits that this vehicle has had. We're doing the math for you, calculating out the date based on the average amount of mileage for that vehicle. And if you need to check that, it's not hard. You can go into anything on this vehicle and you can click and see their history. This is that searchable shop management system history that is visible also inside of your DVI, also inside of your work order now. And this is really great. If I wanted to see oil change, I can type that and I can start to see this myself. Here's the mileage at each interval. I missed it on several. Oh my goodness. And you can get a lot of fun stuff this way. I think you can even type in additional things like, hey, yeah, sure enough, I've used a sway bar link example on a few of those ticket items.
I like the mileage decreasing from one visit to the next. Bye-bye.
Good eye, Michael.
We're rolling back the odometer on that one, aren't we? Huh?
Yeah, did we schedule this reminder for a few weeks ago? But that is one of the cool things you can do inside of the DVI work order QC. All this stuff is getting interlinked a lot better so that the follow-ups become more valuable. Now, reporting also received some enhancements. I'm going to jump back into Craig's Awesome Auto service for this. Craig's Awesome Auto has fun things in the DVI report. DVI report is my go-to report in the system because it gives me the best insights into how a shop's inspection process overall is performing. And that's what a lot of people end up looking at from us here. So, we've always tracked in the technician report the average completion time of their inspections. Well, we are doing another thing now too, and this is new. We are now tracking the send time from advisors, their average amount of time it takes them from the moment a DVI on a ticket they're assigned to is completed to the time it takes them to send it to the client. This is a great metric to watch for your team because, as anyone knows, the amount of time that it takes to get into for the customer to open the DVI, we want to see them. They have to be sent. We want to see them sent as soon as possible. Me and Michael have even argued on when the best time to send is. I say send it even before the estimate's ready, because why not? Michael's best practice is still standing, but it's very, very, very useful. There is one other piece that I want to point out in the DVI report, and that is in the item usage summary. The item usage summary is a simple view of all of the line items that are used in a certain date range, which is selected in the DVI report. You can see which technicians are actually finding work on that. And now what we've added is when you mouse over the date that a note was last made, we show you a tooltip of the note that was actually made. So you don't have to bounce around out of other areas of the report in order to get a good sense of this. And if there's multiple reports, I don't on this thing. Yeah, I don't have more than one listing here, but if I go with the date range a little bit wider, yeah, still not many inspections in Craig's Awesome Auto in the last.
Craig's Awesome Auto has been pretty dead lately.
Too many test instances. But you'll see any of those notes that technician's made. So you get a lot more insight into each user's behavior in the tool. Now, that's a whirlwind tour of a lot of the latest things. I'm going to be very quick on this last piece in respect of everyone's time here. What's coming next? These were technical rewrites on work order and QC. There's lots of new features to enjoy in each of these, but these affect a lot of other next layer things. And currently what we're doing is we're doing some updating on the technical side of our integration component between us and all of our integration partners. We have an entire bunch of code, and that code is being completely updated. So you shouldn't see any behavior change on this, but what it opens the door for us is a lot more meaningful and quicker reactions to some of the requests and everything else that we get regarding integrations. Additional DVI line item status. People have been asking for multiple DVI status for a long time. We have some exciting new prototypes in place that we're eager to share with you. You should see some stuff very early in here, actually, possibly even next month. On some DVI enhancements. Work order and QC refinements continue. We love your feature requests after the rewrites. Keep those coming. The long-term view on these things is awesome. And Q3, Q4, you should see incremental updates to QCs and work orders respectively. Yeah. And lastly, we have some great and exciting new things in tying our marketing pieces together. Please stay tuned for more news on that. There are a lot of enhancements that we're trying to bring to make marketing essentially effortless as possible for our users and in more meaningful ways. So stay tuned from there. And folks, just thank you so much. I appreciate your interest in this. I appreciate your questions. Greg, do we have any final questions as we wrap up?
Yeah, there are a couple questions actually very early on. What's the best practice for techs to report any materials, parts, I would assume, shop materials used back to the advisor?
I love that question. That is great. Who's that question from, Greg?
That's from Rui.
Rui, I should have guessed. All right. So let's take a look on that work order real fast. Because
real quick now, is Rui using Protractor?
Yep.
Yes.
And the tech notes?
Yes, because Protractor integration in this case is able to have an option where your notes do push back into that shop management system. Rui, I would encourage your techs to make any notes related to any of those sort of things in here. Well, not in this line item. I would do an actual job. So if you had to say something, I don't know, new drain plug gasket. That's a good example on a little extra little thing, right? And I can type. So you hit update on there, that note's in there. Now, what you would see, Rui, is there's actually be another button for you that would allow you to push to your work order. It would be right up here at the top, and that will push it to Protractor, and it'll show right up in your system. Makes it a little harder to ignore that way. I forgot to mention the change log. Work order got a change log, folks. You get to see who makes changes and when now, just like the DVI, fully searchable.
And Allison asked also in the kiosk piece of it as well. One of the questions that she seems to ask is actually for the customer's email address. And is there a way to have that loaded into the customer profile?
Ooh, that's a really good one too. So the customer's profile should already be in there. And man, I'm sorry, I don't recall if that was asked automatically by the system or not for new clients that have never come in here. What I can tell you for sure is you can create a question and you can ask for email on that. But I'm happy going in the weeds here. If you folks are happy hanging out for a second more, then let's invent another phone number.
And I think that's exactly what she was saying, is that email address is there, but it looks like it maybe gets skipped. She's asking it as a questionnaire in her questionnaire. Yeah.
Interesting. It sounds like the worry is about somebody skipping past it without it being required. Is that?
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Be more sounding like a required field type of a scenario.
It would be a good feature request. And frankly, it would be something I wouldn't mind seeing the shop administrator have access to. I think that would make that a stronger piece for the for new customers that have never been in here already. Of course, best practice for service advisors is once you get a ticket and everything else, you're going to try to get this stuff later, but it sure is nice to have it out of the gate.
That would also work a lot. It would also work really well for a lot of times that the returning customer didn't get the information captured. So they come in through the system here. They can't go forward until it's plugged in.
No, great question.
Allison also had one other good question here, and it revolves around what are some best practices for no-shows, for appointment no-shows and such.
Oh man, that's another great question. So that's great too, because there's a couple of things that we can do with that. With appointments in Auto Text Me, especially if you have the integration turned on for this. Let's just go ahead and turn this one into an appointment real fast, just to have it on the board. We'll make the appointment for tomorrow, 9 a.m. So once it becomes an appointment, right down here in future scheduled appointments, right? When that time goes by where it becomes today, it migrates naturally to the board. The A will turn red. A red A is not a great thing to see on your board because that's an appointment. That means that it was missed. So I would specifically assign a service advisor to look for this daily and then reach out to the individuals that are on the board, asking them if they need to reschedule. And that's the polite way to do it, instead of saying, hey, you didn't show up, right? I'm sorry we missed you. Would you like to reschedule? And you could handle that entire behavior straight in here, or of course through the text manager. But it'll be right there on your board. Now we do clear off those appointments. I believe it's a 2-week time frame. So you have literally 2 weeks of missed appointments on your board that you could go through and try to reschedule. And you might find too, sometimes you get some ticket duplication and other issues that it probably did get checked in. Maybe it was a different name, different phone number when they dropped the car off. Lots of reasons that an appointment happened. So that's why I try to keep it polite. I'm sorry we missed you. Would you like to reschedule? And they might say, oh, I was there. All good, thanks. Then you can just close it off your board. Done and done. Hopefully that answers your question. One of many best practices on that. We could talk for a while on appointments.
I think that covers most of the questions that we had, guys. Were there any other last minute questions? Kayla actually had, I apologize.
Yeah.
About mileage transfer from the DVI into the QC sheet. And I think this goes back to a kind of an in and out mileage request.
I like this request. Now, we have traditionally stayed away from the out mileage and we've only been taking on the in. And that is an evolved feature on most of the latest shop management systems to track both of those mileages. I think it would make sense to have out mileage captured on the QC sheet. The question is where we would do it. And if you've got a specific request on where you would like to see it, let's make that request to support. Support at autotext.me, folks, is where we will receive any requests that you have. And I can promise you that if you make a short request into there, or a long one, some of you have, you can count on us reviewing those requests. They are not ignored. You will be replied to. We discuss every feature request every 2 weeks. It's a bi-weekly meeting that we have here, and approved or not, it gets discussed. And we will argue for anything that we feel strongly about. I also attend those meetings periodically. So if you need to get that reinforced, our support team absolutely loves the training team because we have so many awesome ideas that keeps
all the time. They love when we come up with our ideas. And the thing is our ideas just come from a lot of our conversation with the owners and the users. So it's
just a telegraph. Yeah.
We're just the mouthpiece.
Now, I do prefer it coming from you guys because I've played the telephone game with my own kids, teaching them about that. It always comes best from you, and then I'll reinforce it. But support at Auto Text Me, guys, anytime.
Plus, when it's just another request from Craig.
Yeah, if that doesn't go very far. It's something about quantity. But on our support page, folks, if you ever need that, support at autotext.me, it's right in there. Submit a support ticket. It's a button as well if you want to fill this out. All it requires the contact name on that field and a subject header and the actual information. So any of your users can hit that. We have a wonderful support team. Definitely recommend you reach out. With that, Greg, we good on questions? I'll hang out all day.
I think so.
All right. Thanks, folks. I appreciate your time. Training pages are live for all these new features and a little less herky-jerky on some of my displays. So please check out those training pages. Until then, we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.